The story begins in Vietnam, 1971, in the heart of the Mekong Delta. Helicopters hover in the air, carrying supplies and wounded soldiers. On the ground, American soldiers, battered but alive, are trying to find moments of joy in the middle of war. They laugh, chat, and lean on each other for comfort. But peace doesn't last. Suddenly, without warning, the camp is hit by a strange poisonous gas. Confused and disoriented, the soldiers begin to cough, scream, and collapse. Their heads throb violently, the pain unbearable. Something is wrong, terribly wrong. Chaos erupts. Soldiers, dizzy and drugged, begin shooting each other without understanding why. It's as if they've been poisoned from the inside. Jacob Singer, one of the soldiers, stands frozen as the nightmare unfolds. Explosions rock the jungle. Screams echo in the air. Jacob tries to escape but is stabbed in the process. Everything fades into darkness. Jacob jolts awake in a subway train in New York. It's the present day, and he had fallen asleep while reading a book. As he looks around, the words scribbled on the subway wall catch his eye. New York is a crazy place, but you'll never die of boredom here. Another sign promotes a drug help hotline. Jacob moves to another compartment where he sees a mysterious woman. He asks her if they've passed Bergen Street, but she doesn't answer, just stares at him with cold eyes. Unsettled, Jacob sits quietly. Lights flicker eerily. Another passenger sleeps nearby. As Jacob gets up to leave, he sees something strange. What looks like a tail coming from the sleeping man's body. Horrified, Jacob quickly exits the train. At the station, he finds the main exit locked with chains. Forced to find another way out, he walks along the empty tracks, stepping into a puddle of water. Lights flicker again. A train barrels toward him. As he scrambles to safety, he sees a faceless man watching him. The figure says, "Goodbye," before vanishing. Shaken, Jacob walks through the dark and quiet streets of New York and reaches his apartment. His dog, Chester, welcomes him. Jessie, his girlfriend, is inside, worried about him. She asks why he's late. Jacob tells her that Bud Nash didn't show up again. Jessie tries to cheer him up by showing him how she rearranged the furniture. Jacob thanks her and joins her in the shower, trying to forget the horrors playing in his mind, but his past won't let go. A memory flashes. Jacob crawling through the thick jungle of Vietnam, wounded and alone, spotting a spiderweb as he begs for help. He wakes again from the nightmare. Jessie gives him a package that his young son Eli had dropped off. Inside are photographs of Jacob's old life, his wife Sarah, and their children. One photo in particular pierces his heart. It's of Gabe, his son who died before Jacob went to war. Overcome with emotion, Jacob cries. Jessie tries to comfort him but suggests burning the photos, saying they only bring pain. Despite his protests, she throws them into the incinerator, except for one, Gabe's picture, which Jacob keeps in his wallet. Later, Jacob, now a postal worker, drives through the city singing to himself. At work, he flirts with Jessie but complains about his aching back. He says he's going to see Louis, his regular chiropractor. Jessie warns him that his boss will be mad, but Jacob doesn't care. At the clinic, Louis immediately notices that Jacob is more tense than usual. While massaging him, Louis mentions he ran into Sarah recently, Jacob's ex-wife. She came in with a bad knee. When Jacob asks what Sarah said about him, Louis tells him she regrets meeting you, but also adds she still loves you. Jacob doesn't believe it. Jacob, who once studied for 6 years to earn a PhD, now delivers mail, a job far removed from his former dreams. His trauma from the war changed everything. He tells Louis about a strange memory, one he can't explain. Louis, in his calm and kind way, helps Jacob relax. To Jacob, Louis feels like a guardian angel. Walking through the city, Jacob is momentarily cheered when a group of girls sing flirtatiously to him. But then a speeding car nearly hits him. As it drives away, Jacob glimpses the driver's face. It's blurry and distorted, just like the figures on the train. Panic rises. He goes to a hospital to find Dr. Carlson, someone he used to see as part of a veterans program. But the receptionist insists that there is no Dr. Carlson, and there never was. She suggests he see a psychiatrist. Jacob slams his fist on the counter, shattering a flower vase. As the nurse bends down to clean it up, Jacob notices something horrifying. Something dead is growing out of her head. He runs. Security chases him through the building until he stumbles into a group therapy session. There, a doctor informs him that Dr. Carlson died in a mysterious car explosion just a month ago. No one knows what caused it. Shocked and confused, Jacob heads home and tells Jessie everything. She brushes it off, saying he's just stressed and hallucinating because of his unresolved feelings about Sarah. Later, they attend a house party. Jacob dances with Jessie, but a strange woman offers to read his palm. She looks at his hand and says, "You're already dead." Jacob is shaken. As he continues to dance, he sees strange visions. A man watching him, birds flying wildly, a woman transforming with a grotesque lizard-like tail, hurting people. The music stops. Jacob faints. Back home, Jessie scolds him for embarrassing her. He's burning up with fever. She calls the neighbors to help cool him down with an ice bath. Mrs. Carmichael brings bags of ice. Jacob screams as he's placed in the freezing water. Then another memory surfaces. He's back with Sarah in their warm home, tucking in his son. They talk softly, as if nothing had ever gone wrong. But the illusion fades. He wakes up to Jessie and the dog watching over him. He closes his eyes again and remembers the chopper picking him up from the jungle battlefield. Jacob was flipping through a book filled with gruesome images of torture and hell. Something about the pictures disturbed him deeply. When Jessie, his girlfriend, shouted sarcastically, "Anybody home?" he stared at her in terror. In his mind, she wasn't human anymore. She was a demon. He shoved her away. Jessie, hurt and confused, stormed out, wishing he were dead. Right then, the phone rang. It was Paul Flanagan, an old friend from Vietnam. They met at a bar, both visibly shaken. Paul said he was being watched, followed. He was terrified. They talked about their days in Vietnam, trying to remember what exactly happened during that mysterious night they couldn't recall. Suddenly, Jacob noticed someone staring at them. As they left the bar, Jacob bent down to pick up a piece of paper with the words, "My lucky day," printed on it. Paul got into his car, gave a smile, and the car exploded. Jacob was frozen. The man who'd been watching them tried to help him but vanished before Jacob could process anything. A flash of memory came rushing back. Gunfire, blood, a pilot shot mid-air. At Paul's funeral, rain poured as everyone stood under black umbrellas. Another friend, Frank, trembled. George accidentally dropped his liquor. Something didn't feel right. Jacob told the others it was too suspicious to be a coincidence. Along with 5 fellow veterans, he sought help from a lawyer named Geary. They planned to sue the army, but Geary warned them it would be costly. Someone was watching as they left the office. Later, Jessie told Jacob the lawyer had dropped the case. His friends had all backed out. Frank admitted he was threatened. Jacob pushed Geary to fight on, but the lawyer claimed Jacob and the others had been officially removed from military duty on psychological grounds. Then, things took a darker turn. Jacob was kidnapped by men in suits. A woman with a baby stroller saw it happen. Inside the car, Jacob fought back, jumped out and fled. A man dressed as Santa Claus stole his wallet. Next, Jacob was in a strange hospital. A young police officer had found him. A nurse smiled sweetly, promising to help, but everything felt wrong. The doctor looked amused. Jacob started hallucinating. Broken bicycles, twisted faces, butchered body parts. It was like walking through a nightmare. Faceless people, soulless eyes, dark corridors. A sinister doctor prepared to operate. Jessie was now a nurse. They told Jacob he was dead. He screamed he was alive. An eyeless man jammed a needle into his forehead. Then a moment of peace. Sarah, Jacob's estranged wife, and his kids came to visit. He cried out to them that he was alive. A voice whispered, "Dream on." Panic set in. Suddenly, he was rescued. Louis, his old friend and chiropractor, gave him a brutal massage. Jacob screamed in pain, but Louis told him he was healing now. "If you're holding on to something," Louis said, "you're in hell. Let it go, and you're free." At home, Jacob looked over his army discharge papers. He saw Gabe's drawing. His son, who had died. Gabe had dropped his cards on the road while riding his bike, and a car had run him over. Jacob thought he saw Gabe again, but it was a blurry man. He held his head in despair. Jessie came home with groceries. She was frantic. Jacob had been gone for 2 days. She said she'd called every hospital in the city. He told her not to answer the phone. It rang. She picked it up anyway. "What experiment?" she asked, confused. Jacob looked terrified. He hugged her, said sorry, and left. He met Michael Newman, another Vietnam survivor who'd been following him. Newman was a chemist in the Army's Chemical Warfare Division. He explained everything. There was a drug called the Ladder. It was designed to turn soldiers into unstoppable killing machines by removing all conscience and reason. First tested on monkeys, then on prisoners, it was finally used on Jacob's unit. Without their knowledge, what followed was chaos. The soldiers turned on each other. The enemy never attacked. It was friendly fire. One of Jacob's own brothers in arms had stabbed him. Newman confessed the truth, then disappeared. Jacob took a cab, gave all his money to the driver, and asked to be taken home. "Where's home?" the driver asked. Jacob closed his eyes and remembered. He arrived at a building. The doorman greeted him warmly, calling him Dr. Singer. Jacob had returned to his old life. The memories came flooding back. Inside, Jacob sat in the dark. He remembered playing with his son Gabe, remembered Sarah's warm smile. Then he saw Gabe at the stairs. His son looked real, alive. "Daddy," Gabe said gently. Tears ran down Jacob's face as he hugged him. Gabe took his father's hand, and together they walked up the stairs into a soft, shining light. Far away, back in Vietnam, Newman stood over Jacob's lifeless body. Another doctor was with him. "He's gone," Newman said. "They left his body." Everything faded to black. And to fade into a nice story, you just need to click on my recommendations on the right. Subscribe to never miss an upload again and grab your popcorn. Enjoy yourself and see you soon.